You have a medical license for this, right?
Of course.
Do you think that I could like take a peek at that before we start? Say, do you really believe that's necessary?
You want me to say words?
Oh yeah, say, do you really believe that's necessary?
Oh, I thought you were just saying just do it with your eyes.
Oh, okay. I mean, the good old eye acting, yes.
Okay, all right, well, let's try it again. I'll be more friendly.
Okay, take two, take two.
The trial play is pretty is pretty confusing. And I actually have the original. I'm just worried about what I'm gonna say.
If you say anything
No, cut
spoilery,
it
then we
out.
can
But
cut it
I
out.
mean, like I did a whole bunch of interviews recently, at like a godly, ungodly hour in the morning, and they told me they weren't going to come out until after episode 8, but they all sort of just popped out in the middle after episode 7, and there's quite a few weird spoilers in there that I was sort of shocked by. So, um, but and maybe don't Marina, is that her name? Marina.
Mimi.
Maybe don't put that in because then you'll send people to the article and then they'll be trying to find where all the spoilers are.
She's a pro at this. She's,
Yeah.
cutting in and out, everything like that. She'll make
Um,
this
right.
fantastic.
But yeah, but I'm more interested about what you thought.
Uh,
Yeah, because you're usually very astute with your analysis of the episodes, and I
well,
might
thank
not be
you.
able to really like uh give that much insight, because if I do, I'll probably give the whole thing away. But yeah.
Well, I mean, I think we'll probably get into kind of my thoughts a little bit with the questions and everything that I ask and
Okay.
just how I
These aren't the questions. I thought these were the questions. No.
Oh, well, I mean, this is part of it, but I mean, moving, I trust me.
Oh,
I
we're
have
warming up.
plenty. I have
Okay.
plenty.
And that also means that we can feed that like shame and shock into his monstrous self, and acknowledgement of his monstrous self, into his like progressive spiral into uh where we're going.
That's season three. I know the confirmation isn't out there, but it's happening in my mind. I've already made it up.
When does this video come out?
This Friday.
Well, it's actually interesting that it comes out on Friday because it's gonna feel outdated. But yeah, yeah.
Okay. Sitting on some good information there, I see.
I don't know, but I don't know if what I just said made any sense, but like I think it's sort of
It makes
it's
perfect
good.
sense to me. I
It's
feel like I'm
good.
picking
Yeah.
up what you're putting down.
Okay.
He's so bad at being a human. He's so good at being a vampire and a monster. But again, the journey of refinding that humanity, despite being a human,
Yeah.
he
Yeah.
doesn't find it when he is a human. He finds it later on, eventually down the line, once he's returned to his vampiric self.
Yeah, and he's got to go. I mean, yeah, and he's got to become like a vagrant vagabond, kind of like walking in the streets and disappearing, and nobody knows where he is, and kind of gone silent. And you know, I mean, he is quite a long journey, and in terms of making this prince version of himself, where he loves everyone and he's kind of found his jam, and he's kind of trying to keep them all together.
Yeah.
Um, but like even in bits like the in I think it's in Atlantis where when Louis and Lestat get back together again, and he has this line where he's talking about Louis, and he's like, "I'm jealous of the blood that is, but like running through his veins, and I want to kill everything until I get it. Like I want it. I want, like, he's still coming from this place of like." intensity, even though
Yeah.
he's sort of trying to keep everyone together, and he's still a very volatile, kind of bombastic, uh, you know, brat.
Yeah. I mean, we get that with him like chopping off the hand and everything like that. He's like, enough talking. Again,
Yeah,
it's time
yeah,
for some action, guys.
yeah, 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 yeah.
Um, but getting back to the episode specifically,
Sorry, yeah.
I don't know. Just for me, that's how I kind of worked it out in my mind, was just that, yeah, if Lestat threw himself out there to try and save her, then, if he was unsuccessful and he ends up dying, then there's no hope of like trying to help Louis later on. Whereas at least as long as if he doesn't move and he stays off to the sidelines, there's still maybe this hope that he can help out Louis in the future.
Have you seen episode 8?
I just watched it last night.
Okay. I was like, I
But
was
I
like,
came to this conclusion before. I came to this conclusion before. I like
have you
came up
tried?
with the questions before I watched it so that I wouldn't have this influence here.
Have you? I was like, have you done show your reaction video to episode eight as well?
Oh, cried my I'm sending everybody on the team my water bill for all the water that I'm having to replenish in my body from all the tears that I've cried. It's
Fantastic.
phenomenal.
Well, I would say then in answer. I mean, like, obviously, I don't know how to answer your question without giving away
You don't
too
have
much, but
to.
I don't think that's what he's doing.
Oh, okay. It's just maybe.
I don't know. I think the reality is, and you probably won't be able to use this, but I'll tell you anyway. And the reality is that when we set it up in season 1, because we knew that that's how that we always knew that he was going
Mhm,
to save him at the trial
mhm.
from episode 3, season 1.
Yeah.
So he does I heard your heart dancing, and there's blood coming out of his ear, and he's all fucked up, and we had to really like lay that he it took heaps out of him. Like it was a big deal, a big piece of
Yes.
magic.
Yes.
And so when he saves Louis,
Hmm.
Louis is sentenced second, you know,
Yeah.
and so he can't sentence Claudia. He can't save Claudia first because he doesn't know whether he's going to be able to save Louis. And so that is the answer. That is the kind of like longer-winded kind of answer to your question, to your theory, which is the same thing, but it's more the fact that when she's being burnt, I think it's sort of like, I don't know. I don't know if we're going to revisit that, um, or if that is it. But I think well, I you can't use this. You can't,
This is just us talking now about like the show and everything. This is fine.
use it. You can't use this. Mina, you can't use this. You can't use any of this about this Claudius death. But I don't know, yeah, because like I put in a few beats where I was like, he's either being controlled, like
Mhm.
literally, he's like he's being controlled and he's trying to, um, or that he's so catatonic by this stage, like his brain is starting to melt out of his head,
Yeah.
um, or also that this is your life. This is vampiric existence. There's some very, very dark reality in which, yeah, this is what he's done. I mean, I think this is sort
Yeah.
of like, and I think that's more powerful than uh, saying, one vampire is bad, one vampire is good, or Armand was controlling the whole thing. I think if you start going like Armand was the big arc villain of the show, then it kind of takes away the
It falls
agency.
apart. Yeah.
Yeah, Louis got to have a lot of agency. Lestat's got to have agency, and they've got to have and Armand, and they've got to have control, and be responsible for their own actions. Yeah,
Yeah.
and he's got to have a reason to feel like deep shame, you know.
Yeah.
And
But I mean,
now that you've seen episode 8, I mean, like, yeah, he does. I think he does his own metaphorical tower, you know. Louis pushes him out of the tower now. Do you know?
Oh, I
And
know. It's
yeah,
cold-blooded. Saying
mm, mm.
I'm not gonna kill you. I'm gonna do something even worse with this
Yeah, but
gremlin.
yeah. Were you mad? Were you mad with Armand at the end or not?
I I'm obviously I angry at him for lying, but I mean, I think I just I'm such a lover to my core. I find it hard to like hate anyone through and through, and I can
Mm,
understand so much of where he's coming from. That I mean, yeah, does it piss me off that he lied and took credit for this? And he could have helped, and he did, you know, ultimately go into this fully surrendering Louis so that he could be a part of the coven still. Yeah, that pisses me off, but I understand why, because this has been his family for hundreds and hundreds of years. And
yeah, but not. I mean, not because you're talking about episode 7. I was talking about episode 8.
well, yeah, I mean, even then,
Yeah.
what are
So
you
I mean, in terms of,
specifically talking about in terms of?
well, I suppose it's like maintaining that lie that he saved him for that long.
Yeah, that's some bullshit.
You
But
know, like I
also,
think
but
that's
like if had he told him the truth though, that it was Lestat, could he have held on to Louis for as long as he did? And I don't think that I think
mm,
he wouldn't have. And that's kind of that's something I feel like I touched on where, Lestat talks about, he crushes what he can't own, whereas Armand kind of envelops what he can't own and blocks out everything else so that it's only him. And
yeah.
I can get why he wouldn't be forthright with that information.
Mm,
To have this
mm,
kind of, you know, Louis owes it to Armand almost that he saved him if he maintains the lie that it was him who saved him.
mm,
And
mm. But also, I mean, Louis is in a relationship with Armand out of spite, and I think that's kind of wild. It's the wild thing about it. It's like quite sad for Armand in a way, and he must know. Armand must know that.
he
That
knows.
Louis is like only maintaining this relationship to kind of make sure that Lestat is continuing to suffer. And I think there's and when you go back to that moment in the 1970s, when Armand calls out Lestat and Louis says no. When you see it for the first time in episode 5, you think he's like, no, I don't want to, I don't want to speak to him, but he's actually saying, no, you're not. I am not going back to him. I'm not going to speak to him. It's so
Yeah,
heartbreaking. It's so horrendous.
it is.
It's such a fucked up show.
It's
Yeah.
fucked up for everybody on every level too, because as you're saying, Armand knows this, and yet he's still willing
Yeah.
to carry on with this because he is that desperate for love. And
Yeah.
like,
Well, they all are. Yeah. They all are desperate for love.
yes,
And, and I think and I'm looking forward to exploring that relationship between Armand and Lestat because it is a very fucking complicated relationship. I mean, it's like very, very messy.
yeah.
And and
I mean, I always think like quintessential Armand and Lestat for me is like a blood communion, that whole little like kind of monologue that Armand has where he's like, I've loved you more than Louis. I've loved you more than even Marius. You are it for me. And yet I hate you more than anything. When I think of the very definition of hate, I think of you. Like, isn't
yeah,
that
it's
just
crazy.
so perfect?
Yeah, but they're not. They can't be it for each other. I mean, that's what's
No.
tragic for Armand, obviously. But yeah, they're not really compatible in that way. And I think there's a lot. There's so much to unpack in the future, particularly between um Marius and Armand and Lestat, and what that dynamic is, and how we actually really frame a Marius in the end. I'm very curious to see it because um, Marius is a very complicated character.
Very
He's a
kind. He's
very
like
kind of like,
the father, lover,
hmm, yeah,
lovely
but he's
elements of
also
incest that's always a little bit
yeah, they're
present.
always there. He's always there. But I think this is the thing is that there's always someone who these vampires have been betrayed by, and then it's like it's a show about or a story about passed on trauma. I was like, just generational trauma.
Hmm.
It's just what it's cyclical trauma. These
Having it
things that
literally
these
passed down through actual blood.
yeah, yeah, exactly. And so, um, it's I think it's a very interesting dynamic when you're looking at like a character like Marius, who sort of turns around to Lestat and says, "Well, you could step away, and you weren't caught up in religious, uh, you know, hegemony and society and pomp and ceremony. You managed to like step away from that, whereas Armand was lost to it. He fell into it and he couldn't see himself see his way out. So he's lost to me now. And I think Armand just wanted anybody to come back to him. I think he's fascinating in that regard. He really represents a lot to do with Anne Rice's sort of internal struggle with her faith, which she kind of
Yeah.
kept coming back and forward to. And I think Armand is fascinating in that regard. Yeah.
Yeah. Yeah.
I don't know if we're
Yeah.
talking about episode 7 anymore. Sorry, Lena.
I love it. How do I sign up to be a part of this like Wednesday book club, man?
It's funny because like I try not to read the books that often. I read them when we're shooting,
Mhm.
and I read it when we're in pre-production. And I go back to the books that we're talking about in pre-production. But I try to read other things, because there's big books. So, but also, we are doing an adaptation,
Mhm.
and my Lestat is different to Anne Rice's Lestat. There's
Yeah.
in the I try and be as honorable as I can to her work. But I also have to acknowledge that Roland and Hannah, but really Roland Jones has adapted this character, and his version of it is I love it. I think it's exquisite, but I think it's different. You gotta accept that. And I think it's for the best. I think episode 8 is actually quite satisfying. It's
It
painful,
is.
but it's quite
It
satisfying.
is.
Yeah,
Yeah.
yeah,
Yeah.
yeah.
I watched it. I hit pause and I was like, I think that might be one of the best episodes of television I've ever watched. It's
Mm,
and it feels so complete and it's such a I mean, not that obviously I want this show to go on forever and ever and ever. But even if it didn't, it's such a beautiful ending. Like it could
mm,
end here.
mm,
And even
mm.
then I would be satisfied with that because
Yeah,
it's
but
just
maybe
it's finished a beautiful arc while allowing so many doors to open for what could come in the future.
yeah, yeah, and you yeah, it is. It's satisfying, and you don't usually get that with television. At the end of a season, you think, "Oh fuck, when is the next season going to come?" But actually, at the end of this one, even though you're really excited to learn about like Louis, who's completely accepted his vampiric nature, you actually at the end of this one, you're like, "Oh, that was great. I feel satiated. I feel full."
You know what? And yeah, that is nail on the head with that because I think at the end of every single episode, of this season, I've gotten to the end and I've been punching my pillow or throwing it across the room and being like, I want the next episode right now.
Mm,
And yeah, so often with TV, you have that same kind of thing with the end of a season. And I'm just realizing now that, yeah, when the episode ended, it was just satisfaction. I didn't think to myself, I need season 3, episode 1 in my hands right now. I was just able to sit in what happened and take it all in
mm,
and
mm.
just enjoy the experience that I've had.
Yeah, which is good because it takes us a long time to make this show.
So, I
You
mean,
better
don't count on me and holding on to those feelings
you
forever,
better you better
okay?
feel satiated for some time because it takes a long time to make this show. So,
Okay, jeez. I don't know if you saw in the editor's note, but I always do a shot with
oh yeah,
everybody.
it's 2 p.m. in the afternoon. I guess I I'm gonna do did everyone do a shot with you?
I won't answer that question until you pour whatever it is you're gonna pour.
I've got whiskey. I'm
You
gonna pour
got
whiskey.
whiskey?
Yeah, it's
Yes,
not fancy.
Sam.
Good Irish whiskey.
Good old
Miss
Jameson, that's
Jamison.
fancy to me, man. Look at that. You're the first, I
It's a
will tell
quite a
you
big shot.
this. I will tell you this now that you've poured the shot, so there's no going back. All of the actors have not done alcohol with me. Only Hannah and Mara, the behind the scenes people, have done liquor with me.
That's a big shot glass you've got. What are you drinking?
This is what I call vampire blood. It's vodka with some pomegranate liqueur to give it the color.
Fancy. Well, I'm just drinking straight up whiskey. So
I
cheers.
love that. This is To Being Shot Through the Heart by Sam Reid's portrayal of Lestat de Liancourt and episode 7 and the entire season of Interview with the Vampire. So cheers to you.
Cheers to you, Autumn. Uh,
Good stuff. Took that like a champ, no chaser.
no, no, no. I mean, it seems like a weird thing to shot whiskey, but it's your tradition. So
You have to do it. I make the rules here. You have to do it. Thank you so, so much for chatting with me for all of this time. This
right.
has been
Yeah.
dream come true. And here's to hoping we get to have more fun little conversations in the future.
Yeah. Well, yeah. I mean, by the time this video comes out, I think you're gonna have some other stuff to talk about. But yeah.
Okay. I'll see you when we go rafting next week.
Yeah, rafting. Well, I'm gonna be at Comic-Con, so I don't know if you're coming to that,
Oh, is
but
that next week?
no, but I'm going over there.
Oh,
I'm going to the States next week to do some fun stuff. Yeah. All right. Well, I look forward to seeing your reaction to these episodes because they're the most fun things to watch.
they are. My oh, I have to admit, I did consider with the episode 7 one. I was like, what if I just say I deleted this footage on accident because I don't know if I feel comfortable letting people see how much I've cried.
Oh, you
And
cried in it?
oh my God, of course I cried in it. Did you not cry?
Well, yeah. I mean, I cried in it in the show. Yeah.
Yeah, but like you're
Quite a bit.
watching it. Are you a crier? Do you cry when you watch these episodes?
Um, no, because I'm so aware of how we made it, so I don't really.
Oh, all
Yeah, I don't
right.
really cry. But watching it, I mean, yeah, yeah. I don't know if I necessarily. Yeah, I'm very aware of the structures of how we make the show, you know. But doing it when you're in it, it's very, very extreme.
Very real and visceral. Okay.
It's
Well,
very real. And
at least you
yeah.
cried at some point. That makes me feel a little bit better. But yeah, I cried.
When we cry in the show, that's really they're using real tears and they trace our tears with the blood. So when we cry, when tears come out of our face, they're real tears. And then I don't know how they do it, but they map the tear and the welling of the with the special effects, and then
It's such a brilliant effect too. Like even just from
yeah.
like when you have tears in your eyes, seeing the eyes get redder and redder.
No, occasionally what happens is we cry more than we're meant to, and they come in and they remove them.
You're like, that's too much fucking work. We got to clear this up.
Well, yeah, because they can't afford to put every tear in, so like they have to be very
Yeah,
specific when the tear is full. But
the
we're sometimes
perfect
crying.
one tear
We're
coming down
sometimes
off your
crying,
face.
crying more than they are. And they go in there and they remove all the tears from our faces because we can't have real tears because obviously we cry blood, as a
Yeah,
vampire.
yeah. So I cried real non-blood tears at a couple points during episode 7. And then episode 8, I literally started crying, I think 3 minutes in.
I
It
love
was
that. I love that whole beat, like the jazz beats sequence of Louis killing the
oh,
coven. I just love the sequence so much. I love it.
it's so brilliant. What the fuck is Daniel Hart like eating for breakfast to come up with these ideas? Because it's so not what anyone else would do. It would be very dramatic and like dun dun
Yeah.
dun dun. And to have
That's also
like
Roland and Daniel Hart together, the way that they work together. And, next season, pretty fucking exciting because Roland and Daniel Hart will be running the season because it's so music orientated, It's
yes.
like it's insane. They are a beautiful partnership that create this show. Really. And Daniel Hart is wildly talented. Like
Wildly
just freak.
talented.
He's a freak.
Well, I mean, with you've hinted to season three and everything, and Rockstar Lestat and all that jazz. I mean, that's kind of the most important thing to me in my life at this point. And, you
Yeah.
know, you have these conversations where you're like, what if we add this little change? And I know the whole thing is one night only in San Francisco, but do you think maybe we could do a second night only in Colorado? You know? I think Red Rocks would be a great venue for the Vampire Lestat to perform at.
I'll talk to Roland about that. Yeah,
Okay,
I'll talk to
good.
Roland. Yeah, yeah. But I have a
Cool.
feeling like, yeah, I have a feeling like with Roland Jones and Daniel Hart, um, I have a feeling like there might be more than one concert. Yeah.
World tour, here we come.
I have a feeling, yeah, you're not wrong, but you can't use that, Mina.
That's just for me.
Yeah, yeah.